Jung's Model of Personality, Part 5 of 10, Personality Psychology. Dr. Michael Botwin, Department of Psychology, California State University, Fresno. For Jung, the psyche is the total of personality. I have an undated Jungian quote here that describes that, and he says psychology is neither biology nor physiology, nor, nay, other science than just a knowledge of the psyche. So the psyche is everything. It's the entire personality system in Jung's scheme. It embraces all thought, feeling, behavior, conscious and unconscious, as you can see by this quote from Hall and Norby, who have written eloquently on Jung's theory. They say it guides, regulates individuals' behavior in their social and physical environments. Now, Jung has as a central tenet to his theory the notion of wholeness or unity. It's almost a Zen-like thing, and Jung was very influenced by Eastern philosophy. So he talks about the nature of the wholeness. He says that's something we develop over our lifespan. And we want to integrate our personality rather than having it break into small units that often will be in conflict with each other. Difficult concepts, but we're going down the Jungian rabbit hole and we're not going too deep, so it's okay if you're a little fuzzy on these ideas. Now, this is my drawing of Jung's personality model. I've been using it for a long time. You can see it's extremely primitive computer graphics, but it does the job for me, and I'll show you some alternate drawings, not to tout my model, but just to show you different views. Imagine this as a big kind of cone-shaped structure, and we're slicing right through the center of that structure. Now, let's look at this. Just like Freud, we have the conscious, what you're thinking about right now, the information you can access. Then Jung's second level, and I would consider these levels going down, is the personal unconscious. In the personal unconscious, we have centers of psychic energy. These are these little yellow cones called complexes. We'll spend a whole unit talking about complexes, so hang on for the moment there. But these are things that come from our own personal experience. Many of them are unconscious. We can pull some information from the personal unconscious into the consciousness, just like Freud's preconscious, but it works a little different. The lowest level, and according to Jungian scholars, the biggest, is the collective unconscious. We share collective unconscious, that's the plural form of it, with other individuals. We all have collective unconsciouses that represent the wishes, desires, emotions, feelings, and all these things of our ancestors, including pre-human ones. And we'll talk about the collective unconscious again in another unit in a bit. So I'm just kind of giving you the overview here. We're going to come back and then go over each part in detail. Now, the structural component of psychic energy in the collective unconscious is the archetype. And again, we'll spend actually 2 video lectures on archetypes because they're the most important component of the Jungian model. And these are predispositions to think, feel, and behave in certain ways. we've already talked about the notion of predisposition. So this is my bad drawing. I take no great pride in it, but let me just show you some alternate views. And after you learn a little bit more of Jungian's theory, you can come back and look at these. This is my favorite one that I found, but it still shows stuff all over the place. We'll come back and use this drawing when we talk about the self and the ego. But it's got some notions of inner world and consciousness and stuff. This one just kind of looks a bit bizarre. Here's another one that I found. Kind of almost scary looking. Then I like this one just because it's kind of ordered and it makes sense. And it's got a lot of things. All of these have things we're not going to specifically talk about as we go through the Jungian units. In Jung's model, consciousness appears early in life, possibly even prenatally before birth. And it arises as an infant becomes aware of things in the environment, especially other individuals. And it develops as the child becomes capable of differentiating between familiar and unfamiliar individuals. In fact, if you look developmentally, you see this is where a child starts developing a sense also of stranger anxiety. So the child's capacity to differentiate between itself and others leads to the development of its ego. And the ego and the self, kind of amorphous constructs in Jung's theory, you're going to find that they're both at the center of the model. So let's take a look and see what ego does from a Jungian perspective. It organizes the conscious mind. It's also a gateway. It determines what is going to enter our consciousness. Furthermore, it provides us with a sense of continuity and identity. Who am I? It allows you to make predictions of what kind of behaviors you're going to do. Given a certain situation, what am I going to do in that situation? Important stuff. Now, the personal unconscious, we've already talked about briefly, but like I said, we're going to go into each of the components in much more detail. It's similar to Freud's preconscious, but also has the unconscious component to it. And it's a repository of everything that we have experienced in life, including things we've suppressed and forgotten, things that haven't made a conscious impression for us, and also those things we can recall. It is the area of the psyche where the complexes reside. And complexes are centers of psychic energy that are based on things that we've learned or experienced in our past or felt something about. We'll talk about the complexes in an upcoming lecture. We've taken a very, very, very simplistic view of the Jungian structures of personality. Like I said, we're not going to master it this semester. To master Jung would probably require a whole course. We don't have that time. But at least you've got some of the topography, and we'll talk about some of the other pieces as we go on and how they work. So we'll see you next time in Personality Psychology. This has been a We Have Couches video production. Copyright 2020, Professor Michael Botwin. All rights reserved.